Hello, everybody.
Hello. No, we don't want to go there. All right, welcome to Dr. G's show. We have Dr. G and the boss, and this is Holly 1.0 this week. Last week we had 2.0.
I'm really sorry, Melanie, about
Her is Malushka.
Exactly. So now you know what I go through every day. Hi, Christine. I mean, every time we do a talk, someone.
Oh, she had to go through all the stuff.
Someone understands now.
Yes. So this is like episode 112, I think, and we're going to talk about something near and dear to Jim Maddox's heart.
Hi, Jim and Tim.
And Tim Hodgson.
You just need to give up on the H names, okay?
Hajjaj.
Is it still, even after all this time, is it still funny?
Is it funny, you guys? Because it's been like almost 3 years, and
He's never stopped.
I feel like it's dad joke material.
Sometimes I think you're just in your own world inside your body that no one else is in.
Yeah. I was going to make a joke, but I'd get kicked off the air for that. And there's Sabrina. So today, last week we talked about drinks, or as back in my day we call it drinks.
Get your drink on.
Get your drink on. So we talked about the good, the bad, the toxic, and you guys had some pretty good questions there. Today we're going to talk about drinks part 2, or no?
That's what he thinks, just because he's stuck on drinks.
We're going to talk about mindyourownbusinesses.com.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Full brains.
Yes.
You can't say yes. You're supposed to be saying no. All right, so this week we're going to talk about mindfulness with Dr. G and the boss.
Someone.
Holly Hajjaj.
It's something.
It's still funny.
It's something like that.
It's still funny.
Oops.
And you guys have the. You guys should know that I ate garlic rosemary fries for dinner from Publix.
And let me tell you,
it smells delightful.
It's painful.
No, it's delightful. But I think it gave me some like I feel all bloated from it. I think the garlic. So I've been releasing the garlic euphoria. What would you call it?
If it wasn't so toxic to me,
air.
I would say you can't keep the enemy inside. But because we're in your office and you've become
a human diffuser. It's like I'm diffusing garlic essential oils.
Right.
Yeah? So what are we talking about tonight?
So, guys, we're going to talk about mindfulness.
No, we should talk about mindlessness.
I don't have anything funny to say to that. So, we're going to talk about the difference between having a full mind and being mindful.
Oh, I see what you did there. Did a little wordplay there.
Nice. Yeah. Some of you are probably pretty good experts at this. But this is something that we're presenting for the Y here pretty soon. And so...
The Y what? Who are you? You didn't introduce yourself.
I'm an alien.
3 years nobody knows who.
I work at the YMCA. I'm the corporate wellness director there. And we do webinars and presentations and stuff like that. And so... we're kind of trying this out on you guys tonight.
Is it true that you worked your way up from towel girl?
From what girl?
To corporate director of wellness?
Towel girl.
Is that true?
At first I thought you said towel girl. Towel. T-A-L girl.
You know, if they didn't allow towels at the YMCA, that would be a Taliban.
I'm going to stop the show. That was one of the worst.
Am I to understand there's a Taliban?
Some of my closest, most favoritist people are people who give towels out at the Y. So
that's not true.
We all do our work there.
She's second floor YMCA. Like, she's above all those people now.
But I'm below all the people working out, which is probably kind of true.
Is that third floor?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about mindfulness, and as you guys know, that's a huge part of kind of mind, body, spirit, but bio, psycho, social, spiritual being. And I always love that picture on Facebook. There's a meme where there's a guy in his brain has a cloud bubble, and it's just full of all these things that he's got to figure out. What about the past? What about the present? What about the future? And then it shows the dog, and his little brain bubble is just what he sees in front of him. So he's being fully present about that moment where the human is completely distracted. So his brain is full, his mind is full, but the dog is mindful.
Oh, there it is again.
See how I do it.
So do any of you guys struggle with extreme busyness, failed attempts at multitasking, reoccurring anxiety or worries? How about intense emotion that doesn't completely subside?
Nope.
Too many thoughts racing? Jumbled, can't focus? Pressure, responsibility, expectations. And jump in if these are things that you struggle with.
Oh, you weren't just asking me, you were asking me.
How about Dr. G? Do you react more than you respond?
Yes. Wait, what?
Do you react?
Do I react more
than you respond?
No, I think I do a very good job these days of responding and not reacting. But my jackassery is a reaction. That's always automatic.
He might not even be aware, and that's what this talk is about. Sometimes we're not even aware of our jackassery.
Well, I'm aware.
So, other things, confusion when making decisions, or just life feeling slightly more out of control than you'd like.
Right.
This is why we're here today to talk about
What's this disease called?
This is called mindfulness. F-U-L-L.
Fullness, okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
or how about just being human?
Is there one L in mindfulness, the whole word?
Just one, yeah.
But if you say mindful...
It has two L's.
God dang it, that's where I get it wrong all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
So we have parenting, work, multiple jobs, relationships, coworkers, extended family, finances, etc., 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 business. But you took my stuff. Business management, caregiving, grief. What are you struggling with? Tonight, what are you struggling with? Uncertainty, world events, politics, local news, 400 online snippet articles and videos per day. And then, on top of all of that, we have all of our own perceptions and judgments that we layer.
Preach it, H2.
On top of all these things. And about ourselves.
About ourselves.
I'm telling you, it's bad.
Can I get an amen? So, Sabrina says she has trouble with mindful drinking. I'm not sure if that's water or martinis. We just got back from martinis. So it's probably martinis. So Shelly Maldonado, she says yes, 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 yes. So definitely the first four things or all the things, right? And Christine says she has racing thoughts when she's trying to go to sleep. Me and many others I know. Oh, that's a huge one.
Yeah.
Like it's that constant, like you can't shut it down.
Right. Right.
And then Sherilyn says hi.
Hi, Sherilyn.
Hi, Sherilyn.
Thanks for joining us.
She's a Newton.
So I have a question for you. What do you think this number is? 60,000 to 70,000.
Thoughts per minute. What?
Not quite. But you're on the right track. 60,000 to 70,000.
That's how
you're
many
very
times.
Close. You're like 50% correct.
The amount of times that men think about sex in a day. Because it's something like every other second, every 10 seconds.
Yeah.
I think that adds up.
So
I did the math.
We have 60,000, well, according to Stanford.
Well, you're not letting them decide. A lot of people are complaining that you're not giving them enough time.
Enough time? Oh.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well, I don't see them rolling in yet. So,
CC work.
that is the number. That's the number of thoughts we have per day, 60 to 70,000. You said per minute.
Per minute? Well, I think a lot about stuff.
60,000 per minute.
Are those profound thoughts or just weaning thoughts?
So, they're any thoughts.
60,000? It doesn't seem like a lot.
It is a lot. I think it's a lot.
The air's warm. And
you're a doctor, so you may have more than other people. Oh, he's going to take that. Any feeding into the ego.
That's not true.
Okay, so what do you think the percentage 90% is? What do you think 90% is in relation to this? So we have 60,000 to 70,000 thoughts per day.
Yeah.
90%
are kind of meaningless.
You're on the right track. It's about the thoughts. So
is it a train track?
90% of those thoughts.
Because my cousin lost a leg on the train track. He's on the wrong track.
Are negative.
What the hell?
90% of your thoughts are negative. Why do you think that is?
Because we're a negative population. We feed into the amygdala.
There's probably lots of theories, but one of those theories, which I think makes the most, probably some of the biggest sense, and maybe it's on a spectrum. Maybe we can have more or less.
Is this the one you made up?
Is the one that makes, yes, it is, and the one that makes sense. So we've evolved to monitor our environments for danger and opportunities and survival. So
yes.
we're predisposed. The brain is predisposed towards a negative bias because we're always looking out for danger.
So that's like 63,000 thoughts are negative for every 7,000 that's positive.
Yes.
That's crazy.
That's a lot. How many would agree?
Do
Do you feel like more of your thoughts are negative than positive, or are you just going through life and you're not even really aware?
So it's funny, it's like 2 years ago I would have said I would have thought no, more positive, but the reality is probably more negative. Probably pretty typical. Because I'm always talking shit in my head, about everybody. It's every situation. It's just constant talking smack. But sometimes when I'm walking around the streets, I always have this dialogue that's going on in my head. And I'm always like, wait, did they hear me? Am I saying stuff out loud? Was that in my head, or did I say that?
The thing is, though, is it's not only negative dialogue about others, it's also negative dialogue about ourselves. And that's where I think things get really painful and crazy.
So at the Wise Women event that we had in Newton, the Wise Minded Women, you weren't there.
I don't know what you're talking about. I need to drink green tea.
So, one of the things that they talked about a lot was that negative self-thought, the negative dialogue that you have going on in your head, the things that limit you, and then arguing with yourself that it's not true. Yeah. But I'm telling you, after, say, maybe 2 years ago, I think, I bet you 90% of my thoughts are positive now. I think I'm the opposite. When I started doing mindfulness meditation.
I think it makes just rational sense. You've got to look out so that you don't get hit if you're crossing the street. You're always looking to make sure that you're safe.
But I always feel good. They'll stop.
When you're at work, we have natural fear. So we have a fear that we want to do well at work, and so maybe we fear our boss, or we fear not doing well, or things like that. So
you fear your boss? She's watching. She's scared of me.
No, my workspace is great.
Would it be unreasonable for me to be scared of my boss if I'm my boss?
Yeah, I would be scared of you.
I love my boss.
So all day long, we're always making sure we're always making sure that things are right. We're worrying about the kids, or we're making sure that the house is clean. We have 5,000 things that we're thinking about that we feel urgent about doing, and I think it makes sense that 90% could be negative based on just survival and what we deem to be survival.
Right. So you're always looking for the differences, and that sets you up for that negativity. Yeah. So one person on here, her name rhymes with Prina. She said that women who cuss more have less negativity.
They got that outlet, man.
Yeah.
It's a release.
I think that's true.
So, to emphasize this, I've got one more story study to talk about.
Hey, look, I'm Holly. Roll my eyes. We're switching places.
He's upset because I'm bringing the topic this time.
She's leading.
Mr. Wise Woman supporter.
And I'm the one that's going to just roll my eyes at her. Bad jokes. Like, ugh.
Okay, so electric shock. All right, so they did this study. This social psychologist at the University of Virginia.
Skinner box, Dr. Skinner. Is it? It is.
No. What's the Skinner box?
It's this.
Whatever.
You tell me, and then I'll tell you whether I'm right or wrong.
Okay.
I'm right.
So, they got people together to have 15-minute thinking periods, okay? To see if people could be with their thoughts, just with their thoughts alone. So, they couldn't have cell phones, they couldn't have anything, no stimulation, just can they be with their thoughts?
Yeah.
So, after that first trial, 50% of the people did not like the experience. So, they reported enjoyment at below the midpoint of this scale. And then high ratings of boredom, things like that. Well, then they tried to, and they said they enjoyed activities like reading and listening to music about twice as much as just thinking and being.
Yeah.
They decided to do kind of intensify the study a little bit and take it a step further. So they put people in this room and they gave them the option to give themselves an electric shock during this time. This is self-administered.
to get rid of the distraction of like being with yourself?
Just to see. So
oh my God.
Even though all the
I know what's going to happen with this. I know what's going to happen.
Even though all the participants had previously stated they would pay money to avoid being shocked with electricity, 67% of men shocked themselves. 67% and 25% of women. Rather than just sit there quietly and think. And they had one person, one outlier, who pressed the shock mechanism 190 times.
I would like to hang out with that person.
In 15 minutes.
Holy crap. So wait, if they shock, do they get out of it?
I'm sure it was just a little shock, like on Ghostbusters.
It's just like, okay, I'd like to go back to the Ghostbusters situation here, because are you the keymaster?
Well, and so someone said something about curiosity.
Nope,
that's what I thought too. Like, oh, would you just try it out of curiosity? But what would make you repeat it?
So, being with your own thoughts is worse than shocking.
Yes.
That's the best. Okay, I love that. Because that would be it. It's just like, I'm telling you, I cannot tell you how many patients I have that the idea of doing nothing and sitting there reflecting is the most painful experience ever. So again, that is way more painful than shocking. So it's like, I don't have to think about myself. I don't have to think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So what does that say? You know, what does that say?
Yeah, what does it say?
Well, 90% of our thoughts are probably pretty negative.
Oh, so I didn't even put... You're putting stuff together there.
So that's what I think.
You got a little continuum going on.
I do.
Yeah. All right,
I
so...
do.
Because 90% is negative, and then you're left alone with your own thoughts, the negativity is more disturbing than the idea of shocking yourself.
Yes.
So that person who shocked themselves 100-something times, they probably smothered a puppy when they were a kid or something. They did something so horrific that they're just like, shut it down, I can't think. Yeah.
So, and also I think too, and not to be down on men or anything. I think it's the sex difference is interesting too. That men more men chose to do it. I would
What
say
was the stats for the guys?
67% versus 25% for women. I think that, and I don't mean to be offensive, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that is it possible that men are adapting less well emotionally?
Oh.
So
That's sexist.
Not if it's true on an average scale. So we know that women make better relationship, make wider, larger, except for
what
you.
What are these overarching generalizations you're making about gender roles?
So we know it's true in general. In general, on average, women have more social supports than men do.
I think that's absolutely true.
Thank you.
So, wait a minute. But I would think that women... I'm going to get in trouble for that. Like that. I feel like women would have more negative thoughts than guys, though. They seem to be self-judging more than guys. Guys are usually a little bit more oblivious. What do you guys think? Would guys or gals? Would men or women? Who do you think would have more negative self-thoughts? Do you think guys would?
I think the processing, for some reason, the processing is different.
I want to know why, because I would have really thought women... But you're saying... Okay, so wait, say it again, because you're saying... So the men don't have the social networking of being able to self-soothe?
I know I'm going to say something controversial, but...
It's getting good. Everybody pay attention.
I know a lot of men who are very emotionally intelligent, okay? I know a lot of them.
Thank you.
But I think on the grand scale, I think there might be slightly less ability to process, verbalize, activate, whatever it is, thoughts and emotions.
And they would just because then guys would rather... I bet you anything. Most guys, now not Alfredo and me and Tracy and Todd, especially.
Scott.
Probably Tim and Scott. Tracy, yeah. That most guys would rather shock themselves than have conversations about their emotions.
I think that's what I mean. I think that there might be men who would agree.
I know.
Yes, I know those men.
I know before I made my big switch over to mindfulness and meditation and all this, I probably would have just rather been shocked to death.
Because the emotion is too hyper,
it's
too overstimulating and arousing.
Nobody prepared us for all that. So but now it's different. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just think that's interesting, which kind of then takes us into what are the ways that we generally cope as humans, getting off of the men and women discussion, but just as humans, what are the ways that we cope in general? Does anybody have any they want to share?
So we know men cope through painful experiences to get out of those situations.
Escape?
Mm-hmm. Distraction.
Distraction. Pleasure seeking? What does that mean? Food?
Yeah, food big time.
Alcohol?
Oh yeah.
Drugs?
Well, what? Now you're talking. Are we having a party later?
What else do we do to escape? We crave stimulation, like the shocking, or...
I always like it. We eat for happiness, we distract from sadness.
Right. Numbing out, what does numbing out mean?
Numbing, yeah.
Do you just numb out in front of the television, or... So, the question is, and then we've got aggression. So, and that aggression doesn't have to be physical aggression. It could be mental aggression. It could be just anger at ourselves or anger at others because we're needing some sort of expression for that, some sort of outlet for that emotion that we haven't processed or really dealt with, and it comes out as aggression. We've also got medication as a way that we cope with these difficult, painful thoughts and emotions. So, these are all kind of, when you look at it from the perspective of mindfulness or meditation, these are, once again, kind of short-term, quick fixes.
Because none of them work. So it's kind of like, I always think, I like the idea of these things allow you to push things into a suitcase and you're sitting on it, cramming it in there, and you're just like, I can keep it down until eventually you can't. Like,
Right.
you can only distract from the fire in the basement for so long. You can only, distract from kind of how sad and frustrated you are. So then eventually you have to deal with it.
Yeah, and it comes out some way,
Yeah.
some way somehow, because it has to. It
Right.
needs to.
So the average age by the time someone's like hormonally exhausted to where they can't cope anymore is 35 years old now.
Oh, I believe that wholeheartedly. In fact, I feel like that was the age I really started having more health problems.
Yeah.
Does anybody else agree with that? 35 for
So that's like
not being able to cope with stress?
Yeah, and over the last 20 years since then, she's really gotten better at it. Okay, so
I haven't even known you that long.
all right,
Suzanne, I do want to punch him in the face sometimes.
That was said in confidence. Okay, I got a couple of things here. So Deb says, I should be super positive then. And then Deb says, I don't think I get bored enough, but she might shock herself out of curiosity. Let's see. Valerie says, women are smarter and only 25% did it.
Yeah.
Well, there's more women in college now.
Smarter or more able to handle their emotions and thoughts.
Like Jim would say, emotionally more intelligent.
That's what I just said earlier.
All right. But you had to have me mansplain it. All right, so men are sometimes... Okay, so Christine says men sometimes get a kick out of pain. Probably. Valerie says some people self-harm because that's the only way they can feel.
Right.
So the guys... Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Self-harm, or a lot of people do really risky things like playing around on buildings and...
Christine says, for the men, arousal, question mark? Oh, and here's our friend Calvin. He said he's a little unfocused. Just found out last Friday he needs surgery. He's going to need a kidney. So that's really... and I just found that out from Calvin, actually from Sabrina, but about that with Calvin too. And so all through this process of that kind of fear-driven, I mean, because this is a real issue, a real concern, but making sure that you really implement like those mindful practices. So whatever's going to happen is going to happen, but you want to feel good through the whole process and not let that self-doubt and the self-negativity and all the harmful thoughts, of just like, oh, think negativity, bad things are going to happen. You
Right.
don't want that to be rambling around in your head with that.
Right. Right. So there's a couple of ways, and I can skip some stuff on here if you'd like, unless you want me to talk through a little bit more of it.
No.
You want me to talk through it?
Talk through what?
I feel like I need to cut this down a little bit for tonight. But, so we can talk a little bit about what meditation is versus mindfulness.
What is the difference?
Do you know the difference?
Meditation is the active practice of mindfulness.
Okay.
Is that right?
Sort of.
Sort of.
So meditation is, think of meditation as the practice of building concentration and focus.
Yes.
So with most meditation exercises, you're focusing on an object, whether it be your breath, body sensations, sounds, maybe it's a candle, maybe you're counting breaths, an image, something like that. And you keep bringing yourself back around to this object of focus.
So if you get distracted...
If you get distracted, you keep gently bringing yourself back to focus.
And should you judge yourself really hard for being distracted?
You probably should just beat yourself.
Emotionally up. Shock yourself.
You should shock yourself. No. So when you come back to this practice of focus, that's the key to it, is to not beat yourself up and to be non-judgmental about it, to kind of approach it with gentleness and humor, and take it lightly. So meditation that's the practice of concentration.
Non-judgmental. I feel like that's part of this sentence for that. Non-judgmental practice of mindfulness in a distracted environment. No.
Okay.
No, I'm just making up
stuff. So if you've never done any meditation or mindfulness before, you might want to start with a concentration practice.
Since I'm Holly tonight, can I ask? I just a minute while you're soapboxing over there about people being
soapboxing.
That was so funny. So, how many of you guys already practice some form of mindfulness, or being fully present, or meditation? And what do you do? What kind of practices do you do?
You are playing me.
I am. My name's Holly Kajaj. It's a soft A in the beginning, hard A at the end. Just like college. Because it's still A's. All right.
So that's meditation. Does anybody want to try to tell us what you think mindfulness is then?
Ooh. Mindful is being fully present in the moment.
Yes. Yeah. So when you're mindful,
Did I get it right for real?
Yeah, you're letting go of that anchor.
I feel like I'm making stuff up.
You're letting go of that concentration practice and just being aware.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I like that book, Fully Present, and they were talking about it on NPR. Now, I haven't read it because I'm from Texas. So I like listening to NPR, and they talk about the books. And then I feel like I've read the books.
Yeah, through osmosis.
She came in my office once when I first started practicing at the other clinic, and I just have all these bookshelves full of books, right? Just hundreds and hundreds of books. And then she said, "Man, that's impressive. Have you read all those books?" I was like, "No." Not at all.
It's all a show.
But it worked. It impressed people, so.
You'd read some of those books.
I've looked through pictures in the books.
Yeah.
So, their book, Fully Present, is talking about that mindfulness is really being fully present whatever you're doing. And so being all about that thing. So if you're gardening, really paying attention, like what's the soil feel like? What does the marijuana plants look like when I'm planting them in the yard? How much, what's the water feel like? What's the air feel like? How's the sun feel on me? Like being fully present, fully engaged in that moment. And the same thing when you have meals. So when you have meals, you should have meal times. And you're fully engaged in that meal, not watching TV, not being distracted, not yelling at the kids, but really just thinking about how things taste, how things feel, not being in the future of what should I be doing tomorrow, but just in that moment.
Yeah, and so there's this sort of difference of like formal practice, which would be like your meditation,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's kind of an informal concentration too when you're washing the dishes or you're driving or it's during a shower or bath or whatever. You're just really aware of all the things that are happening in that moment, and you're not caught up in the thoughts of the future or thoughts from the past, so worries versus bitterness or sad thoughts or grief.
You talking about Todd again?
Keeps trying to bring Todd into it.
He hasn't voiced up. He ain't watching. We talk all the crap we want about Todd.
So it's kind of like mindfulness is kind of like you becoming this observer.
Yes.
And you start to kind of detach away from. How many of you are able to kind of really watch your thoughts, and you kind of you can tell, you can stop yourself, you can when something comes up or you get triggered, you're like, hold up,
wait a minute,
I noticed this. Or even if you're in the middle of a conflict, still there's something in the back of your mind that's like, that's interesting that this is going on. I wonder how we got to this place.
Yeah.
Like, that's the observer we're kind of looking for, is that little bit of that distraction there.
I call that practicing the pause. Like, I feel like I made that term up. Is that right?
Congratulations.
So yeah, practice. So I always tell patients, practice the pause. So when that thought comes in, then really just pausing and saying, hey, I'm feeling this way, I'm noticing this, why am I feeling it? And reasoning things out. And then eventually that rewires your brain to where that becomes the normality. And I remember I got devastated about something, and I texted my friend Scott, and he said, that sucks, lean into it. And I thought, I'm going to punch him in his kidney. What the hell? Who says lean into it?
Yeah.
Like, that's bull crap. I'm in pain here, and, it just sucks, and it hurts, and all this. And then it's just like, the more I thought about it, was like, lean into it. What the hell does that mean? And then it was like, okay, it is going to hurt. It's going to hurt.
But leaning into it is different than finding a way of escape.
Right, because all I want to do is escape from the pain.
Right, but if you're judging it as pain and you're judging it as bad and you're judging yourself for having it and you're judging everything else for having it, it's very difficult to sit with it.
Yes.
But if you're not judging it and you're just observing it, that's something different.
Yeah.
Which gives it some space.
Right.
And some space for relief.
Yeah.
Eventually, so all of these things, these thoughts and these emotions, they come and they go and they come and they go. And if you have a really strong triggered emotion, it takes all of 45 seconds to 1 minute for that emotion to arc and then release.
Nice.
And so if you can just allow for that, like he said, lean into it, allow for it, and be with it without acting on it, chances are it's going to release. But what we tend to do is we replay the thought, or we replay the memory, or we replay whatever it is, and we do that over and over and over and over. And essentially what we end up doing is practicing anger, practicing sadness, practicing, and we're actually training our brain for that feeling, to be predisposed to that feeling.
Meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. One time in mindful class, you in our group, you had said something about you meditate on good or bad, but you need to choose what you meditate on. Like whether you know it or not, you are meditating on the negativity and reinforcing those neurological pathways.
When you're caught up in it,
Right.
When you're caught up in it, and then you replay and replay and replay, rather than just, okay, I see that for what it is, and allowing. You're not pushing it away, you're not holding it close, you're just allowing, then it kind of can dissipate. That gives it this space to dissipate.
Yeah.
When you're not giving it a lot of energy.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and Deb says that she does it, and especially she likes to sit in nature and kind of watch nature and be fully present in that moment. And then Sherilyn does guided meditation online, which is really good, because you can actually just, there's no, I think, one way that you need to do it. And so sometimes people do and actually Connie Paraska, who does Wichita in Mind Retreat to Joy, she talked about the other day at meditation for community leaders. You were there, right? Community leaders? You weren't there.
Maybe.
So, all right.
There's always a dig.
There always is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, fine.
I'm used to it.
So, no, I'm playing Holly.
I usually just kind of wait for you to.
I'm Holly today.
Oh, okay.
So you're always giving me crap.
Yes, that's true.
So, you always give me crap off the air.
But
And then you act like you go, I'm a nice person on the show.
You laugh at my crap.
So Connie said, that's because it's so corny. Your crap is so corny.
No, it was good. You were laughing for a full 5 minutes today.
So Connie said something. Oh, that mindful app. What's it called?
Headspace.
Headspace. Yeah, I have that on my phone. Right? So Headspace is actually looking to get, I think, FDA approval, because there's so much strong research about it affecting all the neurology, the physiology, the hormones, that actually having it as a treatment protocol that is paid by insurance from physicians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is.
We're in the prime time for all the research to really be coming forward to implementing this into lifestyle practices.
So this is evidence-based. This is empirically supported.
All right, then.
Okay.
Now you're getting real.
So
I thought this was just a bunch of hodgepodge folklore.
This is now becoming just being used generally, and it's generally accepted in for psychological strategies, and they've got the mindfulness-based stress reduction, which is what Connie does, and they've got mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. So they've got mindful veterans programs, youth mindfulness programs. So we know that this works. We know that that it's helpful.
They should have a dating app that is only for mindful people.
They do.
What? Match.com?
Meet mindful.
That's not
I'm
true.
not kidding.
That's a bunch of crap. those people in there, so I've heard, are just like every other. That's not real. It's supposed to be.
How are you going to, like, pick and choose who can be on the site?
Right, I know. So then unmindful
But-
people are on there.
But still, most of the people who are on there are probably going to have some interest in mindfulness.
I think they have interest in mindful people, but not
For
mindfulness.
themselves.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about how it works. How does mindfulness help the brain?
Kind of like the neurological pathways.
Yes, so we have these
Ooh.
3 brains. I'm going to simplify it for
3
us
brains.
simple folks.
Do guys and girls both have 3 brains?
Guys might have 4. Or okay, I'm going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
So you might even think you could even use your hand as an example.
Oh my god.
Okay? So we've got reptilian brain.
Right, which
Right.
is this thumb that goes inside.
Yeah, so reptilian brain. And then we've got limbic brain. What's the limbic brain, Dr. Garrett?
The limbic system ties emotions to memories.
Yeah, so, well, first let's talk about the reptilian brain, though. What's reptilian brain do?
Anger, fear, desire.
It's instinctual.
Instinctual.
Yeah, it's instinctual.
Is that
It's
when
survival.
you kiss your sister? Instinctual?
I'm not going to answer that. Then we've got emotional brain. Most mammals
Yeah.
have an emotional brain, have the limbic system.
Right.
And that's what typically gets hijacked, right, is the limbic system,
Right.
the amygdala. And then we got the cortex, which sits on top. Boom, cortex, right?
Right.
So those are the 3 brains, reptilian, mammalian, cortex. And the cortex is the one that we use to plan.
Mhm.
It's one we have for forethought. It's a thing that keeps us from doing impulsive things.
Yeah.
That isn't typically even fully developed until a lot of people say in their mid-20s, 24, 25.
Yeah.
I think that's why you feel like you can do anything when you're a teenager. Like you're.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think that's why also North Face uses a lot of Cortex in their gear, so that way it's waterproof.
Can we just have a moment of silence for the horribleness that was that joke?
Oh, Gore-Tex or Gore-Tex? Gore-Tex. Okay.
So what happens is when you practice meditation or mindfulness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Here we go. We're getting on soapbox.
All right,
again.
you're going to soapbox.
When you practice it, you harness that cortex, right? The thing. I want you to pretend.
Ooh.
Pretend
All right.
that the limbic system and the emotional system, that those two are this horse that's out of control. It's out of control.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you have an emotional response to something and the horse is running wild. Wah! I don't know what I'm going to do. Life is horrible. And then what we do with meditation is we integrate that cortex, that prefrontal cortex.
Is that what makes the brain waterproof? Is the cortex?
We integrate that, right? And then we have a rider for the horse. So now we have a rider for our emotional horse, and that rider can steer a little bit easier. It's called top-down processing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And if you practice therapy, it makes dollars too.
Yes. So
It's-
we want to practice getting better at riding the horse,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
This gives us more control. We can adapt better to emotions. We're not so fearfully triggered all the time. We're not as impulsive. We're not as reactive because our prefrontal cortex is saying, "Hey, wait a minute. It's all right. Let's be rational about this." It's like channeling Spock.
Who's Spock?
Spock.
Oh, he's on Star Wars. I love Star Wars.
Did you guys literally just hear him say, "Who is Spock"?
Yeah. No, I know, because Darth Vader takes Spock and he like hovers him up like this, and that's when Battlestar Galactica comes in, and then they start doing that, and then the Ewoks.
We want just a little more Spock in our lives, okay?
All right. No, we don't. Do we?
Yes, we do.
It's that balancing act. The guy that balances and he's holding his heart and his brain, and he's walking on the tightrope, so he's balancing the brain and the heart. Yeah.
Well, we want both. But
Right.
when we're all emotion and we're wigging out on
Right.
emotion and we're using up our good stress hormone or our good hormones for stress, then we probably need to channel a little bit more Spock. Because my question to you is, do you believe
Right.
all of your thoughts? Do you believe all of your emotions? Do you take them to be true?
Oh, snap. Yeah, because at the Wise Women thing, they said, don't believe everything that you think about yourself.
Why?
Because most thoughts are negative, and you'd rather shock yourself than think. That's
right.
Think about how crazy.
Because the
you are.
horse is in control.
That's right.
So some of the Buddhist traditions call it trying to tame the drunken monkey. So if you pretend you have like a drunk monkey inside your head that's leading you around, and you're like this bull with a nose ring, and this monkey is leading you around. Anywhere it wants to go, you follow.
Yeah.
Until you start.
You have a lot of animals in your metaphors.
Analogies. I like animals.
So also with that, you basically have a choice. I mean, that's probably where that Spock part comes in, of like when information comes into your brain, you literally have the choice to decide, does it go to that reptilian fear and anger part, or does it go to frontal lobe? And that's where that practicing the pause comes in, of like, maybe I'm instinctually, I get angry or upset by things, but this time when it comes in, I'm like, ugh, okay, that's making me mad. Why am I feeling so angry? Why am I feeling frustrated? Okay, this is why, but it's such a big deal. It's not such a big deal. And then you start to basically Spock it out or reason it out. Spocking, as I call it. It's not a big deal. Spocking. That's trademark.
It's not meditation, it's Spock.
Patent pending on that. So when you start Spocking, then I think I made up something. That's real now.
Spocking.
When you start Spocking your thoughts, then you start trying to reason and frontal lobe that, and that allows you then to actually change the wiring over to the part of your brain that's the frontal lobe instead of the amygdala or amygdala. So those basically allows you to rewire your brain, and that's what I love. In that book Happiness by Ricard, he says that you can rewire 30,000 neurons in just 2 weeks of mindfulness. So whether it's meditation, yoga, altruism, we always have this ability. Your brain is the largest when you're a baby, right? Especially above the Mason-Dixon line. Okay, that's not funny. So I'm from Texas, I can say that stuff. So, but your brain is the largest when you're a baby, and so you have all this ability to do anything you want, right? You can be trilingual. You can do all these, lots of sports, lots of activities. But as you limit yourself, you actually do what's called synaptic pruning. And as you get older, you actually prune off all these things. Well, I'm not learning more languages. I'm not learning how to drive 3 ways to the store. I'm not doing this thing. I'm not going to learn how to drive a stick. And then your brain gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, right? But we always have the ability to rewire that brain. It's always dynamic. It's always wanting to change. And so with that mindfulness and meditation, you're supposed to be...
You said.
So when you rewire your brain, you have the ability to actually grow those branches back out. And if you think about, like I had a patient today that was talking about how she talks to plants. So when she talks to plants, she notices they grow better and they look better and all that kind of stuff. Or even the studies with the Japanese guy with the water, where he talks positive to the water. But rarely do people talk positive to themselves. They rarely have these positive conversations with themselves. And so we basically reinforce negativity and negativity and negativity and negativity, but we have the ability to rewire and grow and make the brain even more dynamic. But we want to wire that same memory information from the limbic system that used to go there and have anger decisions to then go to the frontal lobe, right, and basically redirect that information until it becomes instinct. Yeah. And that's where when we first started talking, are your thoughts negative or positive? And used to, it really was negative. I had lots of self-doubt, lots of this stuff, because I hated my life at that point. But I tried to be happy and healthy and, try to pretend, be the clown with the tears. But after I made the whole shift in my life and started doing the mindfulness meditation, introduced those concepts, like slowly my brain started rewiring dramatically. And I went from this, kind of like defeated person to really this just sense of overwhelming purpose and vitality. But it took a while to rewire that. And it's hard to even explain. I know I talked to Diane Steves about this once before she passed, but it's even hard to tell people how different you're going to feel when you practice mindfulness. But where that constant negative, you're trying to shut down or shock yourself just to get rid of these constant negative feelings, like you're willing to hurt yourself or cut yourself to get rid of this, right?
Right.
And then you get to this place of where you're just like happy with yourself. Happy. And it doesn't matter whether people are involved, situations are involved. At the core, you're just happy and content.
And that's the person that can sit for 15 minutes with themselves without needing that shock.
Yeah.
And so I'm all for growth and progress. And just because we had a sample of people who they determined had 90% negative thoughts, that doesn't mean that that we can't change that. So
Exactly.
Everything is always in flux, and our mental states literally become our neural traits. And so it's
That's pretty deep.
something.
You just jumped in the deep water there.
Yeah.
Did you know
I
that?
did. Yes, I did.
You're all wading around the kiddie pool, and you just jumped right in the deep end with that comment.
So we can change that. That's what's cool about life, is we have a lot more control than we think.
Exactly. And we have two wise minders that just voiced in. We have one wise minder that Melanie Samo, who's a wise woman, she'll be doing some talking too at some of the wise minded ICT or wisewomenICT.com, all those seminars. And so she has this profound thing that she said, which was, "What up, yo?" See, because she's so
That
wide,
is deep.
she's keeping it real.
That
See?
is so deep.
And then,
Thank you, Melanie.
You know him, Yogi, right?
Yeah.
How do you say it? Saka? Like he goes to the Wichita meditation with community leaders.
Okay. Yeah.
He's super awesome. So I when he did meditation there, I got to actually sit next to him. So he's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so he's talking a little bit about identity too. It's like how attached to you are you to your identity? Who is saying the things that your mind is saying, and kind of becoming aware of where that chatter is coming from, and what kind of identity your chatter is coming from too. So sometimes when we meditate or we practice or we're mindful, we can also be thinking about letting go of identity as well, because that can trip us up, I think, as well.
Well, especially when you get that concept of annihilation. Like, it's hard to make these processes when you're just kind of like coping and things are kind of okay. But man, when you're annihilated and you're just like destroyed, it is the perfect time to be like, okay, what am I going to rebuild here? Who am I going to be?
Who are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, to ask
You
that.
went through that too, didn't you?
I think everybody goes through a lot. I mean, we all go through divorce. We all go through grief. We lose people. It's tough. So we have health struggles. We lose jobs. We get jobs. We have financial burdens. We have all kinds of struggles in life that cause us. I think my personal belief is that part of what life is to kind of help us learn and grow in this way, and kind of take off all of the identities and get rid of all the things that we don't need, and learn about who we really are and why we really are here.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and that's that search for, like, I know most people, it's always that search for happiness. We always think that stuff's going to make us happy. If we just get this job, we'll be happy. If I just meet that girl, she'll be happy. If I just make this amount of money, I'll be happy. But no one ends up being happy. And that's what you really want. I mean, out of all this, that rewiring the brain, and why it's so important, and why it's so important to do yoga and meditation, and kind of find those right tribe people in your life, is because you really just want to be happy no matter what happens. You know, if a whole world falls apart, I'm still happy now.
Right.
You know, if I don't have much money, I'm happy. If I have a bunch of money, I'm happy. Like, I don't care about that stuff anymore. And it's an amazing way to feel and be, to where you don't have these, you're kind of detached from the old things that you basically distracted with, and gave you artificial happiness, to the point where you really feel just kind of calm and happy.
Because all of those things come and go.
Yeah.
All of those mental states come and go.
And you're the only continuum through there.
Right, that awareness there. So, we've got, 5 minutes or so. There's a couple of, like, tips and tricks.
Tips and tricks?
Yeah.
But tricks are just for kids.
Not on Halloween. So. Okay? So, just simple little things you can do if you've never done this before. Are you limited on time and you're struggling to set up a regular meditation practice? Can you count or label? Let's say you want to do a concentration practice and you want to focus on that. So can you count or label your breaths and steps while you're walking into work? What do you think? Could you sit up in bed before getting up and focus on the breath for 5 to 10 minutes?
I like that.
How about do a 5-minute body scan any time of day?
That's that other dude. The Scottish guy. Is he the one that did the scan?
He's the engineer.
I don't know. I didn't watch those shows.
I've been watching the original series lately.
I was going to watch Star Trek, but then I started dating girls. So I figured you have 2 choices in life.
One of us is cool, the other one is superficial. So...
Oh my God.
I'm just good at insults sometimes.
I can't get the knife out of my back. But I've been doing... Oh, I can. Look, I can do yoga.
Yay!
Like that.
Can you find a bathroom to deep breathe for 5 minutes?
What?
What? Deep breathing. What does deep breathing do?
Oh, I thought you deep breathing.
You deep breathe, you stimulate your vagus nerve, your vagal nerve.
Can you talk about 3-part breathing?
There's lots of different types of breathing.
Oh, what kind of breathing do you practice?
There's 4,000 different ways to breathe.
That sounds made up. I'm going to ask Yogi if that's true. Yogi asked.
How could it not be true?
You can't just make up numbers. There's 37 ways to walk.
Aren't there?
I don't know.
So I encourage people to do a simple just counting while breathing. So inhaling to the count of 5, exhaling to the count of 5. If you want to relax a little bit more, you might lengthen out your exhale. If you're feeling a little bit of sluggish and you need more energy, you might lengthen your inhale. So that's kind of where I just stay. That's my go-to. But I'm sure there are lots of other ways to do breathing exercises. But what's nice is that expansion and that release will help stimulate that parasympathetic nervous system. So it's going to turn off the fight or flight, turn on the relaxation response, and it only takes a couple of minutes or so. So that's something simple you can do during your day. If you're extra stressed or extra agitated, my recommendation and thought is to choose a concentration practice that involves more than one object. So maybe you're doing physical movement and maybe you have more than one focus.
You're going to have to explain that. I have no...
So you might not be able to sit still.
Like meditating.
You might not be able to sit still and listen to your breath. And that's just I can't do that. And there are a lot of people who can't sit still, right? We have 65% of men shocking themselves.
I was that way once.
If you can't, you might want to try a movement meditation. So walking meditation, yoga, tai chi. With walking,
yoga, yeah.
Let's say you're doing a walking meditation. So you might be labeling your breath and tying it in with your steps. So you might be saying inhale, 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 exhale, exhale, exhale with each step. Inhale, 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 exhale, 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 however long your inhale or your exhale is. But what are you tying together? Your brain, your thinking. I mean, it's very active, but you're thinking, you're moving, you're noticing the body, you're breathing, you're noticing the breath.
Okay.
So you're doing all of these things, and it's so much more engaging. Your mind literally almost can't get away. So that's a great way to kind of focus, find concentration. If you're having trouble just sitting and being mindful and aware of every passing thought.
So my only concern with, especially the viewers, is you don't have any like bracelets or beads or any paraphernalia, so it's hard to take you seriously as being someone that's ultra spiritual if you don't have all the ultra spiritual gear.
Right. I meant to dress like a meditator, but I forgot. So
I feel like you might be a poser.
yeah.
When you give this lecture at that corporation, you better wear your mindful stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So that way people know you're legit. So I think you taught me this, but I breathe in, I work my way up, but I can breathe in to the point where I can get to 8 or 9 counts, and then slowly go out, and I just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 7, 6, 5.
Yeah.
And doing that and lengthening that and really concentrating, like I tune out everything.
Yeah. Kind of gives you that mental break. It slows things down a little bit. And that's that conduit to that ability to be more mindful. And you'll find that the more that you practice this, the more it just sort of integrates into your day. And like some of you are saying, you don't have those as many negative thoughts anymore as you used to. And that's probably why, because you're taking care of yourselves, and you're either doing these practices or you've figured something out that works for you.
So so the final conclusion for this needs to be something like they need to redo that research with mindfulness, and then out of those 70,000 thoughts, when they practice mindfulness and then they sit alone in the room again, do they not shock themselves anymore?
Yeah, that would be really cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
I bet they're better at being alone.
Yeah.
It's really an opportunity. That's the cool thing, and meditators know this, that having that time to yourself without any distraction, that time to just be, is really like an opportunity and a blessing.
It really is.
And a relief for those that know it, that understand it, and that have experienced it.
And I go to the Tara Scott's Terra Soul Yoga every Monday, right? So it's like 7:30 to like 9, which cuts into my Mort's half price martini night. But I opt.
We forgot the martini portion of the.
Yeah, so I opt to do that.
Time.
And I'll tell you what, and I'm so much more chill these days, like emotionally and all that kind of stuff. But I actually come out of there feeling like euphoric every time. Like, it's so weird. I'll just kind of go to the store, and I'm like, I should probably shop, and I'm just like, whatever. And I just kind of roam around, and then I leave. But I just feel like euphoric after that,
It's powerful. The practice of, and he's talking about the physical yoga practice, it's powerful. That in and of itself.
And she does restorative. So, we're doing the corpse pose. What's it called? Shavasana.
Uh-huh.
And we do that at the very end.
Yeah.
And I do the heart opener. I put the block behind,
Yeah.
And I don't know, something releases with those things of just like, and just
it's a really holistic experience.
Yeah.
Don't yoga and drive, Deb says.
That's right. I try to meditate when I drive and go like, oh.
So takeaways, there's no wrong way. There's no one way to do this.
Well, yeah.
I mean, there's...
Is there a wrong way?
It's finding out what works for you. Like, there's lots of different ways to practice concentration. There's lots of different ways. Being mindful is just being aware. I don't think there's a wrong way.
I feel like there has to be a wrong way.
Like, we wouldn't judge. We're not going to judge your trying.
Well, okay, what about if people say, well, I read to meditate or I watch TV to to meditate? Is that a wrong way? What if I'm fully engaged in the drama that I'm watching? And I'm breathing slowly. Is that wrong?
I think if you're enjoying that, having entertainment is fine. If you're using it as a chronic coping mechanism, then it's different.
Okay, fine. So, no wrong way. So how do people then start? What should they do? So you have all these people that are all stressed out. They'd rather electrocute themselves than sit there and listen to all the garbage in their head, right? Which, by the way, if women knew what was going on in men's heads all day long, you would not snuggle up to us. You would want to just shoot yourself, and, it's a whole mess.
So there's lots of resources. So we know you mentioned one earlier, the Headspace app, TV app.
Headspace.
So there's mindful and meditation communities. There you can go to find a yoga class to get started, find a breath pranayama class, or
pranayama. What's that?
That's the practice of breathing,
yogic
breathing.
No. Pranayama? What? What'd you say?
I
say
said
again.
pranayama. No, pranayama.
Pranayama?
Yeah.
Is that here in Wichita? They do that, or is that like a?
It's breathing practices from yoga,
is that
from the yoga
lineage. Like that? Is it that kind? Kundalini's like.
There's lots of different types of breathing exercises.
But it's not that one.
That is part of pranayama, a different part of it. It's a certain kind of breathing exercise.
All right.
So, if you're trying to figure this out, here's some books and some resources.
All right.
Thich Nhat Hanh is a great little Buddhist author who writes the simplest, cutest little books that have if you want to start simply and just have it be easy and lovely, choose his books. Thich Nhat Hanh. It's spelled with a lot of H's. Pema Chodron, she is also another good author.
Yeah.
John Kabat-Zinn, who brought mindfulness to the West and kind of secularized it. And
is his last name Zen? Like
Zen.
Zen? Oh,
Zinn.
Oh, that's not the same. Okay.
Jack Kornfield is another one.
That sounds made up.
Then
he brought it to the Midwest.
So, other than that, you might look up mindfulness at the American Psychological Association. You can find articles there. The Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Workbook.
Ooh,
that's a good place to start. Buddha's Brain by Rick Hansen is a great book. The Mindfulness Solution it's like an encyclopedia for just everything you'd want to know about mindfulness, and it's put together well. It's a great resource, a great reference. And then just finding your way.
So then there also is an active class in Wichita on Saturdays. And it's meditation with Scott Spradlin. And now Echo is actually kind of helping out with that. So she's leading that meditation group now. And that's been really awesome.
It's at 10 o'clock on Saturdays?
Yeah, 10 o'clock, maybe 10:30 sometimes.
At the, what's it called? Where's it at?
Common Grounds Coffee Shop.
Yeah.
And she's the one that brought me there at my worst, and then that transformed my life.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You saved my life.
I know.
Well, that seems cocky.
Doesn't Scott do a community one at...
Well, no. So then Retreat to Joy, once a month, I think it's the third Thursday. Connie Parazga, she puts on meditation at the Domes at the Reardon Clinic. It's actually at the Pyramid. But meditation with community leaders. And so that's where Yogi, that you'll see him posting on here, he actually was there maybe 2 weeks ago. And then Scott was there last week. But they've never asked me, probably because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So I'm not a community leader.
Yeah.
And I'm not so.
You got your own, what I want to say, positive traits.
That's,
got your own stuff.
that sounds condescending.
You got your own stuff to offer.
So, and then, so there's that, and then there's, like, one of the things, if you guys start doing yoga, really start with restorative yoga. And restorative yoga, it's very slow. You talk about it because she teaches yoga.
Well, I don't know. It depends. I wouldn't necessarily say that's the one you start with.
Is that not true? Well, go ahead.
It's really kind of up to you. I mean, if you're really fit and you like active things, maybe you start with
but mindful. But the mindful
being
people.
mindfulness?
Mindful.
Okay.
The mindful one. Because some of them are like, when we do it at the park, and I think YMCA leads that, it's just like, it's almost, it's not as mindful, I think, as more as a physical kind of thing, activity.
You want to shop around for teachers too, because depending on the teacher, the class can really have a much more of a mindful influence or meditative influence, especially if they integrate the breath into the practice and kind of make sure that that's fluid throughout and they're not going too fast. They're giving you time to be in the poses. Mm-hmm. The restorative is great. Like, that's ideal if you're able to stay in those poses for a little bit of time. But if you are a person who tends towards more anxiety or neuroses and you're just having a lot of trouble being still, that might not be the class for you to start with. You might want to start with something more active. So you're going to have to kind of gauge. Either way, no matter what yoga you start with, you can always go in with the intention of being very aware of your breath and of your body throughout that practice, no matter who the teacher is.
Yeah.
So
there's lots. Christina Duncan has aerial yoga, which is pretty awesome. Terra Soul Yoga is more restorative. I love that. She has some workshop now for chakras that you can contact her about. Body Studio does some good yoga.
Yeah.
And probably if you guys would, as you guys, I know a lot of you guys watch this offline, but if you guys do yoga, you really like where you do yoga, make sure that you post where you do it. I even do Just Tim Sit off of Amazon Prime. I'm a Prime member. I don't want to brag or anything, but
always got to be special some way.
So Prime is a great way to do that too, or even I know like you had like Sherilyn. She talks about she does the meditation, guided meditation online. So there's tons of resources now which are incredible. But really, a lot of times with mindfulness, meditation, yoga, you also want to make sure that you go sometimes to the actual places. So
yeah, the experience will be more.
Yeah,
you'll be apt to be more present.
Exactly. And those are your right tribe. So as you're transitioning your life and you're becoming more balanced, you want to know the people that do meditation, that do yoga, that may eat healthier, and really that becomes your greater right tribe, so that way you have this really great support system in this new transition to where you actually are just become more happy and balanced. And it's not that you're happy, but you're more balanced in life.
Yeah, and that was something I was going to say too. Just so you're kind of aware, like thinking about what mindfulness and meditation is not. So it is not having a blank mind. It is not becoming emotionless.
Yeah.
It is not withdrawing from life. Mm-hmm. It's not seeking everlasting bliss. Although that can be a side effect, that peacefulness. Mm-hmm. But when we're attached to it and we're grabbing it and we're grasping for it, it's not escaping all pain. It's just being aware and flowing through.
Nice.
It's not converting to a new religion.
Dang it!
So just kind of being realistic about what this practice is, so that you can feel successful at it, if there is such a thing as success. I think if you're trying...
Are you jumping back in the deep end of the pool?
I am. I have trouble with that. So I did want to say, somebody asked about restorative yoga. Is that for us out-of-shapers? And I'd say a beginner's, a gentle, a restorative, a yin yoga. If you just want to try it, but you want to learn modifications and things like that, any of those would be great.
Because you don't want to do yoga when you're out of shape, like a really aggressive one, because you'll pull a chakra.
And on that note...
we bid you good day. All right, you guys, thank you for watching again. You wasted another hour of your life with us.
An hour and 15 minutes with us.
Yes.
We're sorry.
But if you do some restorative yoga, some meditation, mindfulness, that will purge you of this. This is like your little shock button. You're just like, God dang it, what am I going to do?
We
I don't want to.
shocked your chakras.
They don't want to even sit in silence.
Chakra shock.
That's why they watch this. This is like them getting shocked.
We're just like a big giant distraction.
They're like, what am I going to do tonight? Nothing. I'd rather watch this show and just be.
Then meditate.
So, love you guys. Please feel free to keep posting. I'll try to answer stuff off the air. And then, I want to hear about what you guys do, what your story is, what your journey is. And so each of us has our own path and our own things that have helped. And the more that we share and interact with that with other people, the better we can become lights in their lives and kind of help them through the same paths. So.
Okay. Thank you. You're me. I'm going to let... Oh, wait. No, you always do it.
Hey, don't touch that button. No, don't.
Oh.
Don't.